being kind and wonderful. A very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so pleased to see so many people of the Aam Aadmi Party here, because I honestly believe that homeopathy is an Aam Aadmi therapy. And I hope when Arvind Kejriwal comes into power, they shall do more for this science as compared to the last 10 years that the government has done so far. So here's wishing you all good luck. Some facts about homeopathy. Homeopathy is neither Indian nor traditional. Lots of people mix homeopathy because it's part of Ayush in India, and therefore it's taken as part of an Indian system of medicine. But it was actually founded by a German doctor, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. And neither is it traditional because it's one of the youngest of all sciences, medical sciences in the world, and it's just hardly 200 years old. Let's look at the global homeopathy market and let's see where India stands. The global market for homeopathy today is 26,000 crores. France is the largest market in the world. And homeopathic medicine is used by 1/3 of the French population in France. The government of France gives 35% subsidy to all homeopathic doctors and homeopathic medicines. Homeopathic medicines are sold in over 20,000 pharmacies across France. In UK, it has royal patronage. As we all know that Prince Charles, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, when she lived more than 100 years old, used to carry a little kit of homeopathic medicines wherever she went. It's part of the national health system, and the government spends 14 million pounds every year, which is 101 crores, on homeopathy. And you know that in India, it's still not part of the ESIS. An official report says that 45% of all British doctors did not hesitate to refer their patients to homeopathic colleague. Germany, where it's founded, is unfortunately not as popular today. And a lot of the pharma industries which actually grew have now shut down. A case in point is Modus, which was a 100-year-old company. And this happened because of the autobahns which were built across because of development. And this is one example where development actually took its toll, because lots of the plants over there had carbon monoxide and lead poisoning. And therefore the plants had to be shut down. So it's actually a misnomer that homeopathy is actually very popular in Germany. It's not. However, medicines and the OTC products are very popular there. In US, more than 230,000 crores is spent every year on alternative health therapies, including homeopathy. And it's a very strong market, growing at 20 to 30% every year, like the rest of the world. The growth in homeopathy for the last 5 years is thrice as much as the pharma industry, 30% as compared to 10% to 15%. At present, according to the World Health Organization, homeopathy is the second largest system of medicine. Why is there a significant increase, therefore, in homeopathy beliefs throughout the world? I'd just like to point out one or two points. First is that it's safe, and the second, that it's cost effective. Let's first study the safety angle. So widespread today are drug-induced disorders that the medical community has now come up with a term called iatrogenic disorders. It is estimated that in America alone, every day, 300 people die because of side effects of modern medication. Now, this is equivalent to a Boeing crash, and nobody makes noise about it. Many times, the side effects are discovered much after the drug has been in popular use. For example, Novalgin, Baralgan, Actifed, they're now banned and discontinued. So drugs which we all use as day-to-day medicines at some stage are really found to be harmful to the body. Also, when you talk about hospital-acquired infections, these are huge. I remember when I used to teach in City University, London in the 80s, there was a new disease which was discovered at that time called Legionnaires' disease. And people were dying in hospitals. Why? Because of cross-infection through air conditioning ducts. And in America alone, 20 lakh people are afflicted by hospital actions, out of which 1 lakh die every year. Homeopathy, being natural, has no side effects. It's also cost effective. And as we just spoke about Obama, I think the entire American election, a very strong point was health cover insurance. And every American election covers that, because healthcare and its skyrocketing costs have now become very, very important, even for political survival. Being hospitalized can literally cause you an arm and a leg without necessarily saving your body. I want to give you a case in point. Recently, there was Japanese encephalitis in Bihar and UP, and the Union Cabinet sanctioned 4,000 crores for the treatment of this and to do research. On the other hand, Andhra Pradesh had a similar episode about 10 years ago. 1 million patients were given, or people, children were given doses of homeopathy medicine called belladonna, and not a single person died in the epidemic. The cost of treating 1 million people was just under 10 lakhs. So 10 lakhs versus 4,000 crores of research and R&D, which still has to come out with the drug for Japanese encephalitis. That's the equation that we are talking about when we talk about homeopathy being cost effective. Given a large population and a small GDP spend, because you can see that all our neighbors, I'm not even going to Brazil, which is part of the BRIC company, 17% compared to Pakistan, which is 20%, Bangladesh 28%, and China 38% of GDP. India spends really very, very little from the government side, and therefore what it needs is a cost-effective and preventive healthcare system like homeopathy. What are the modern trends in diseases? And let's just go through them very quickly. The first, today everybody's talking about immunological problems. Anything happens, they say, oh, you got low immunity, that's why you fell sick. A lot of diseases today are thought to be viral. And the third, of course, more and more stress today is actually being a lot of emphasis on stress-related problems and psychosomatic problems. Today, if you have a migraine, a headache, a backache, lots of problems, high blood pressure also, they all say that it's psychosomatic. A lot of diseases today, are actually precipitated by stress and lifestyle. Unfortunately, immunologic problems have gone up because of uncontrolled and inappropriate use of antibiotics. Very often, these are prescribed by pharmacies, and I think if the new drug law comes in India, pharmacists will be able to prescribe, and there won't be any need for doctors at all. So you could just have more and more people self-medicating themselves. And this can cause a huge problem because ultimately, you really break down your immunity. A development of a new allopathic drug takes 10 to 15 years at the cost of millions of dollars and has a limited lifespan. As against this, in the last 200 years, homeopathy has discovered 10 new drugs every year for the last 200 years. So more than 2,000 new drugs have been discovered in homeopathy. And therefore, this really makes it much, much better equipped to deal with new diseases of which there's no treatment or cure or vaccine for the time being. How does it help in viral disorders? I was discussing with some top scientists in America, and they said now a lot of diseases today are related with viral infections. And they also said that this is due to even diseases like obesity and certain types of cancer are related with viral infections. And so they said all we are trying to do is to develop an antiviral medicine, and you can actually lose weight. You don't need to diet, you don't need to do anything else. And that's the future of medicine. Because homeopathy acts on symptoms, it's very, very useful for viral infections. Coming to psychosomatic disorders, as we all know today, there's so much of stress in our lives, whether we are at home or whether we are at work. And of course, research has shown that the largest stress that is given to us in office is from the immediate boss. And therefore, if you have an unpleasant immediate boss, I mean, you know you're bad for a bad health problem. And at home, the boss could be your wife or anybody else who governs you. And there you have a problem again. It's also stressful, traveling to work, to and fro. You never know whether you're actually going to reach home alive, the way we have our public transport systems. So stress is really part of our life, all along. And homeopathy recognized stress more than 200 years ago. Hahnemann was the first to actually condemn the methods of treatment that prevailed at that time for treating psychosomatic disorders. And it's really, mind and body together. A case in point is a patient of ours who always used to get asthmatic attack every time the father went to Dubai to work. And the homeopathic medicine that really helped cure him was magnesium carb, because it's based on the one emotional symptom of emotional separation. So homeopathy is so exact that even for things like emotional separation, for emotional overdependence, there are different drugs. I mean, I remember that every time I leave and my red suitcase I pack and ready to go, my dog hides under the bed and stops eating. And one of the medicines, for that is magnesium carb. So anything, ailments from, emotional separation, you can think of this as a wonderful remedy. So this is just to give an example of how homeopathy can treat psychosomatic problems. Coming to recent innovations in homeopathy, a lot of people believe that there's very little that is being done in the last 200 years. And this is, again, really only because it's not been reported. R&D and double-blind trials have been carried all over the world. A simple homeopathic drug, lycopodium, and this was done in Lucknow, showed its benefit on high blood pressure, cardiovascular, improving memories, reducing inflammation, and providing 60% protection against alcohol-induced gastric ulcer. Similarly, double-blind trials have been done for various diseases all over the world. 58% of patients suffering from major depression, social phobia, and panic disorders responded positively to homeopathic remedies. Diabetes, when you took only an oral anti-hypoglycemic drug like Dionil, there was 46% control, and when you added homeopathy to it, there was 97% control. So 50% stronger control for diabetes. Similarly, in migraine, and we can go on and on, in rheumatoid arthritis, 82% of patients. In insomnia, 63% of patients with no nervousness and side effects. Chronic fatigue syndrome, 33% of patients as against 3% on placebo. In 82% of patients from allergic symptoms, allergic rhinitis particularly, and so on and so forth. So you can see that, there's a lot of double-blind trials, clinic research, which is being done in all aspects of homeopathy all over the world. And I'll now come to a few innovations at Dr. Batra's. We started electronic case histories in 1982, and we were actually the first health company in India to actually start that. And among the few in the world, at that time, Intermountain was the only other company which actually had electronic health histories over there in Europe. We now see that in America alone, there are 70,000 deaths that are reported due to the inability to read a handwriting of a doctor and to read a prescription correctly. I mean, I must here admit that every time I write a love note to my wife, she takes it to the chemist to be read because she can't understand my handwriting either. But I recognized that in 1982 and decided, therefore, to have electronic case histories, so all the prescriptions come through a system. We have 24/7 live IT networking between 100 and now 12 clinics. Yesterday we opened Behrampur across 3 countries. We were the first to introduce blister packing in homeopathic care because I understood that homeopathic medicines need a lot of compliance. And so to ensure that there was patient compliance, we actually started blister packing in 1982. Similarly, we started Cyber Clinic, which was again in 1996. I remember I was traveling with Shekhar Kapoor, and he was an internet buff at that time. He and Shami Kapoor were the 2 big people who actually were, brought internet into India, were very passionate about it. And he said, "Doc, you're doing so much for homeopathy, why don't you start setting up something on the net?" And I said, "Sure, let me try it." And so we started actually the first active clinic treatment through the net. And we are still in the Limca Book of Records for having treated the highest number of patients through the net. That was 475,000 patients in 1 year from 96 countries. We also started video conferencing, so you can see we use a lot of technology, and this is a case of WAS, Walcott-Aldrich syndrome, a very rare disease in children. And you can see that we are networked between all our clinics all over, and we had you could have a video conferencing from a dermatologist, from a pediatrician in one city. The patient was in Hyderabad, from some senior doctors, and so on and so forth. So this is something which we do even today in all our clinics. Patients can actually get a second opinion from senior doctors, no matter where they are. A little bit about processes and Dr. Batras. I know there are many Ps, but process is one of them. And here really I'd like to thank Dr. Kanodia, because his company Datamatics helped us 8 years ago to set up an ERP. And we are using that with great advancements after that. Very quickly, basically there are two kinds of processes that we use. One are patient-related processes and the other is doctor-related processes. I believe that unless you have very, very strong processes, you cannot upscale and you cannot sustain. And therefore our focus for the last so many years has been to define very strong processes. It's like, if you don't have a good system, you can't change corruption. And it's the same with medicine. If you don't have good systems, even if you have good people, you can't actually make a change. So to make a fundamental change, you need to have very strong processes and systems in place. And this is what we worked on for the last many years. Just to give you a very brief idea, because it starts from the time the patient actually calls. And so there's a lead management system where there's a fully automated call center, the auto dialing system, and new patients who are willing to approach us either through calls or through website or directly walk through the clinics or get referred from one of our existing patients. They are guided to take an appointment, and with the help, then the moment they respond, they are sent an SMS and an email, and a health profile is mailed to them so they can actually think about their problem before they come to the clinic. So it saves a lot of time. So you also have then inquiry, registration, case study. We have a live chat with doctors on the net before you actually visit the clinic. We have a new patient appointment system through the website. You can register in the cyber clinic as well and select your treatment plan and so on and so forth. You have a case study which is taken up by doctors, and the investigations, medical investigations are all into the system. So you don't have to carry your medical reports. They lie there even when you come 20 years after. And you can actually know what is, we have a data management system which actually monitors that. So you can actually know what is your glycosylated hemoglobin if you're a diabetes in the last 20 years and how you have panned over the last 20 years. This is a recording prescription for patients. We started this in 1982. It actually records every appointment of the patient, every visit in any clinic at Dr. Batras across the world. So you actually come to know how many times he has visited, you know what prescription there is. This is online, so on my mobile phone, I get every prescription in the world that is given to over 130,000 patients that visit our clinic regularly. Then we have patient-related processes, which are for existing patients. They have a calendar of appointments. They can change their appointments. They have photos are updated. Their diet and lifestyle changes are reinsisted, and so on and so forth. A review is done every 3 months by senior doctors, and all of this is part of the system. So you don't need to ask for a review. The moment, these are treatment protocols, for example, every disease has a fixed protocol. And a doctor cannot go into the next disease or go to the next field unless he's actually filled in those mandatory protocols. This is how we standardize our treatment and our protocols. So we make sure that all treatments are standardized and that all diseases are protocoled all across the world. So for example, if there's a woman who's suffering from a hair loss problem, then we have to make sure that, have we done her USG or a sonography to make sure whether she's got, PCOD? Have we done a serum ferritin to make sure that she's not anemic and that her absorption is good? And like that, we eliminate all the reasons before we actually start the treatment. There's an automatic process of second opinion in the organization. Registered and unregistered patients can take another opinion if they're not happy with the consultation, for example. There's a medical expert committee which comprises of the top doctors in the country. They also have dermatologists and endocrinologists and MDs in medical science as well, who help all our doctors in diagnosing and treating their patients. There's a system of medical audit. All audits or medical prescriptions, treatments are reviewed back office and carried out from time to time for quality checks and procedure compliance. This is how an upscaling of a case for expert opinion takes place. The doctor just, puts in the name of the kind of appointment that he seeks with any consultant, and it goes on the consultant's table, and then the consultant can either via email or by video conferencing, or personally call the patient for an opinion and advice. How do we manage patient experience? We believe that in a large organization, this is really the key. And we believe that the more point interactions there are, the more difficult the patient experience. We believe that the general practitioner format is actually the happiest format because there's one person who actually deals with everything. But the more interactions that you have in a larger organization, the more difficult the patient experience becomes. So it's very, very crucial that we actually monitor that very, very particularly, and this is what we do. We have mystery customers who are recruited for the last many years. We have an American company which goes to every clinic, and they actually threadbare report everything that's going right or wrong, if there's any smell coming in the toilet, if the lights are proper, if the air conditioning is proper, if the doctor consultation was good, if they were handled well at the front desk, how long did they have to wait, and so on. The reports are analyzed, the gaps are identified, and you can see over here that there's a closure to a mystery audit, a custom audit through a process. And therefore, until it gets closed by the HOD and by the team head, and until corrective action is taken, both corrective as well as preventive. Because studying this, we can understand what may go wrong in some other branch. And we therefore proactively correct the same, if the same mistake is occurring in many branches, we make sure that we train the people all across the country. Similarly, there's a system of patient feedback and complaints. And this is how it works. It looks complicated, but it's actually very, very, very simple. There's a team that works on patient complaints. They're all pooled in. It then goes to the branch, and corrective action is taken on whether it's an administrative complaint or whether it's a medical complaint, and so on. There's a medical quality audit which is done, and this is a system how this gets corrected. Gaps are identified, corrective and preventive action is taken, and then training, process, and protocols. The company has the highest hours of continued medical education perhaps in the world. Our company spends 500 hours of CME every year against 100 hours, which is the standard prescribed all over the world. We have a patient portal, which is called WeCare at Dr. Batra's. So patients can actually go in on this portal and they can change their appointment calendars. They can request for rescheduling their appointments. They can enter their follow-ups. They can give their feedback or complaints. And they can request for services like free couriers, and then they get a POD number on their mobile phone to see where their medicine is, and they can track it themselves. So basically the idea through this is how much can you be participative in patient care and how much can you empower the patient. And that's what we're trying to do through technology at Dr. Batra's. We also have a very strong process for doctors, and that starts with the selection process and the continued medical education process. There's a very strict selection process. Only 6% of doctors are actually selected from the CVs that we receive. The written examination is conducted, which is of an MD level. The papers are set by MD doctors, medical MDs, and it's corrected by medical MDs. And once that is done, then psychometric analysis is done, because they may be very, very good academically, but they may not be good with people, and they may not know how to handle people. So we make sure that we also carry on a psychometric analysis for every doctor that joins the company. There's an induction training, which is classroom plus hands-on for new doctors. Then there's a periodic training, and there's special topic trainings on new diseases, which is conducted every 3 months, not only by homeopaths or by our doctors, but for some of the top people in the world. For example, the person who has the patent for the stem cell therapy in Europe came and gave a talk to all our doctors in India. There's an online CME as well, which is done, and there's a knowledge portal, because we believe that we are part of a knowledge industry, and it's very important that we share knowledge across the 350 odd doctors in the organization. And the more we can pass this knowledge amongst each other, the better our results will be. So it allows us to discuss cases, take advice from different doctors, and learn from all our patients as well. This is how the knowledge portal works. And there are forum discussions regularly on this portal again. Then we have an information management system, which is, of course, the database management. You have a statistical research, and then you have, of course, MIS and reporting. This is the MIS reporting. The same thing comes on my mobile phone. anytime, any place, I'm anywhere in the world, I can log in, and I can actually have my balance sheet of all my 11 group companies on my mobile phone. And we close our balance sheets on 31st of March. Everything is online. All our bank accounts are linked with every bank, and it comes back into our system. So that's how it works. And this is also something that's taken us many years to develop. Similarly, we have statistical research on all the ailments that we deal with. You can get right down to the exact number of patients that you're dealing with every segment. You can actually find out whether any particular medicine is helping a particular segment, and you can then use that medicine overall for the benefit of humanity and other people at large. Finally, I went to Harvard 2 years ago, and that was my 60th birthday present from my son. And I did a course in medical excellence, and I came out with two kind of learnings from there. One was that one needs to move from being an organization of efficiency into an organization of learning. And I think a lot of changes that you see in the organization in the last 2 years are actually, to fulfill that need. The second thing that I learned from there was that one of the biggest challenges of medicine is the measuring of medical outcomes. And for 2 years, we have a research team which has been working with international scientists and doctors all over the world to actually develop instruments and scoring systems to measure medical outcomes. I am happy to say that this year we shall be introducing a lot of them, and I'm just going to show you one or two of them just to give an idea of how it works. Just like how you have the PASI score for burns, we developed the Dr. Batra's SASI score, which is the Surface Area Severity Index. So what happens over here is, if you take a patient of skin and you take his photograph, it gets superimposed in this, and you'll actually work out what percentage of the body is actually covered, for example, by psoriasis or vitiligo. You can see over here, down there, that's the patient of psoriasis, and you can see it's now being marked on the body, and it'll then give you an exact percentage. And you can repeat that every 3 months, and you'll actually get an area, and you'll come to know which area has actually gone down. It's actually measurable, because otherwise, in any skin disease, everything is very, very subjective. You're itching less, you think the area is better, but this is something which you can actually measure live, and it's been developed by some scientists in Vienna, especially for Dr. Batra's. How do I get out of this? Okay. Similarly, we have just imported 3D cameras. There's also an interesting concept in skin. What it does, it actually takes pictures which are centimeters below the skin. So you can actually find out before hyperpigmentation or even hypopigmentation, like especially in cases of leukoderma. 3 months before melanin is actually being formed, you can actually measure it. So it can actually tell you whether your treatment is going on the right track or not, and you can actually save 3 months of time. So this is just to give you an idea on some of the things that we do. Similarly, you can get a digital PFR reading. So for patients with COPD or asthmas, you can actually get charts like this, which will then show you whether the breathing capacity is better or not. Because it's important in asthmatic patients not just to talk about whether their asthma is better or not, but whether the breathing capacity is improved or not. So can India lead the world market in homeopathy finally? In India, the homeopathic market is worth 2,758 crores. It is pegged to be 5,873 crores by 2017. 10 crore people in India use homeopathy. It's expected in the next 3 years, this will reach 16 crores. There are around 11,000 homeopathic hospital beds in the country. Fortunately, India has the largest number of professional institutions, homeopaths, and homeopathic patients in the world. But unfortunately, it has a very, very poor distribution system. And because of this, the popularity of homeopathy, the way it should be, like how it is in France and in other parts of the world, is lacking. We have 500,000 trained doctors in India, and 20,000 are added every year. Dr. Batra's has been voted as the only trusted healthcare brand in India by the Brand Trust Report last year. We now have 112 clinics across 3 countries. We hope to add this and go up to 750 clinics in the next 3 years. What is the role of homeopathy in India, and what is Dr. Batra's vision? First of all, I'd like the adoption of homeopathy by the government as a means to reach reliable and cost-effective healthcare to rural India. It's very easy to do. I've tried to work out on a model even with the government and said we could use video conferencing, for example, and we can train unemployed youth in a village, and it's very easy to prescribe through video conferencing, and they could then dispense the medicine. It's a project which is still lying in abeyance like everything else with the government, and I hope that at some stage they would take it forward. And if they don't, I'm very sure that my foundation at some stage would do it independently. We need to get out to rural India, but we also need to reach urban India. And I think holistic medicine and making sure that we are able to offer safe, sensible, and cost-effective healthcare to our country is actually the need of the hour. I mean, I can tell you, I'm sure there are some doctors over here, and such eminent ones, they must have all seen that there are 2 common reasons in India where people actually go into debt. One of them is, of course, dowry system when they have girls, and unfortunately that still exists in spite of all the laws. And the second, commonest one, is debt which the family takes to take care of somebody's health. I think healthcare burden in our society is huge, and I know so many families where it has broken them, not just emotionally, but also financially, and not only for them, but for generations to come. I mean, the loan is passed on to the children, and then the parents die or the father dies, and the children still have to take care of it. And therefore, finally, I'd like to end with saying that the objective of medical practitioners must not be to profit from disease. Ultimately, our attitude towards medicine is defined by what we consider our goal. Do we want more doctors, more medicines, and more hospitals, or simply less disease? In my opinion, this is one case where less is definitely more. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think whatever introduction I could manage for Dr. Batra, has been more than fulfilled and more than expanded our vision and understanding of homeopathy. A couple of points I wanted to share with you. Being a medical person myself, and also having interacted with alternative complementary systems of medicine fellows, on the commercial side as well as the consuming side. As I mentioned, many of them are crying why they are not able to make the kind of impact that you have made. But I think the answer lies in 2 trade secrets that I think you have let out of the bag, 2 things. One is the process, the second is the experience. I think the successful GPs of today or yesterday or even tomorrow know the importance of process and the importance of experience, healing experience, which unfortunately many health care-oriented organizations are not addressing. I think that's an area. There are two of the many areas that you're doing wonderful work, sir. I think those 2 areas, you have hit the nail on the head by saying that you pay meticulous attention to the processes and also to the overall care or healing ambience or the experience. And of course, the modernity that he has infused into what we think is a little bit of an old-fashioned science of homeopathy is mind-boggling, and it's amazing. Well, so on many counts, you are doing a wonderful job. You are doing yeoman service to the society, and I wish you all the very best. And thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Now, may I request Mr. Satya Brahma to do the honors, please. Take care. Thank you, sir. Look forward to meeting you sometime. Thank you. Yeah, निकाल दो. It's a bit of a change in the schedule. In the printed schedule would mention that you will have Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, the one and only Kejriwal, Today we are going to experience a video with him. And Dr. Mukesh Hariawala has very kindly accepted our request to have his talk post-lunch, because I am told there are plenty of enthusiasts who would love to listen to him more at leisure, rather than being pressured into the time slot waiting for the lunch, because I'm sure there will be a bit of a rush at the buffet table. So thank you, Dr. Mukesh Hariawala, for accepting the request to have your talk a little later. And now we are going to have a video from Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Now, of course, Kejriwal needs no introduction. Yeah. But still, maybe right from Anna Hazare's days, or even before, when he was a bureaucrat, when he was a civil servant, and of course he got the Magsaysay Award, and he's an IIT alumnus, etc., 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 which you must have heard umpteen number of times through the social media and also the electronic media. Today he's playing a Well, I'm very happily surprised, or happy to hear from Mr. Satya Brahma, that this is the first address to the nation that he is making to the nation after taking over his new role as the head of the Aam Aadmi Party. And he has chosen our dear friend Mr. Satya Brahma to be the conduit for taking that message across. Congratulations to you and all the very best. Well, quickly, we have seen the problems facing our country, and that very thing justifies the heading of our conference. We are looking at the conclave of all kinds of issues relating to India, not just healthcare, not just philanthropy, not just datamatics, not just whatever. To touch the heart of an individual, the Aam Aadmi, is a tough job. You can have the best of Twitters and best of Facebooks and best of everything, but still you may fail to touch the Aam Aadmi's heart. And I think touching the heart is the challenge that Arvind Kejriwal has taken on himself, and is doing a wonderful job. So I wouldn't stand between you and the video. So I wish you all the best, happy viewing, and after that we break for lunch. Okay, am I right? After the video. Sorry? Okay, after the video. Yeah. So you heard it. Just after the video and before the lunch, we'll have a question and answer session. Feel free, be ready with your firearms, of the benign verbal kind. Thank you.
आप सब लोगों को मेरा नमस्कार। मैं सत्या जी का बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ। आज उन्होंने आप सब लोगों से मुझे बातचीत करने का मौका दिया। साथियों, हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि किस तरह से रोज़ हमारा देश लुट रहा है। रोज़ एक नया स्कैम निकल के आता है, और आज का स्कैम पिछले वाले स्कैम से कहीं बड़ा होता है। 1 लाख करोड़, 2 लाख करोड़, 3 लाख करोड़, अब तो इसका कोई सेंस ही नहीं बचा है। और हम देखते हैं कि हर पार्टी इन स्कैम्स में मिली हुई है, चाहे वो कांग्रेस हो, चाहे बीजेपी हो, समाजवादी पार्टी, बहुजन समाजवादी पार्टी, डीएमके, एडीएमके, सब पार्टियां मिलकर स्कैम कर रही हैं, और कोई पार्टी नहीं चाहती है कि भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ कोई एक्शन लिया जाए। आप सब लोगों को पता है कि 2 साल तक अन्ना हज़ारे जी के साथ हम लोग रामलीला मैदान में जंतर मंतर पे भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ कितना बड़ा आंदोलन हुआ। अगस्त 2011 में तो एक इतनी बड़ी क्रांति आई, जो कि शायद इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद किसी ने देखा नहीं था कि इतने लार्ज नंबर्स में लोग सड़कों के ऊपर उतर के आए, जब अन्ना जी 13 दिन के लिए रामलीला मैदान में अनशन पे बैठे थे। उसके बावजूद जब अन्ना जी अनशन पे बैठे थे, पूरी संसद ने, सारी पार्टियों ने मिलके पूरे देश के सामने प्रॉमिस किया कि वो एक स्ट्रॉन्ग एंटी करप्शन लॉ लेके आएंगे, जन लोकपाल बिल लेके आएंगे। उसके तभी अन्ना जी ने अपना अनशन छोड़ा था। उसके बावजूद सारी पार्टियों ने मिलके 3 महीने के अंदर दे वेंट बैक ऑन देयर वर्ड। उन्होंने धोखा दिया पूरे देश को, और उन्होंने कानून, आज तक कानून नहीं दिया उन्होंने। और जो कानून डिबेट भी कर रहे हैं वो इतना डाइल्यूटेड लॉ है कि वो आने के बाद भी कुछ नहीं होने वाला। तो धीरे धीरे हमें ये समझ में आने लगा कि कोई भी पार्टी नहीं चाहती कि करप्शन के खिलाफ एक्शन होना चाहिए। क्यों? क्योंकि सारी पार्टियां मिली हुई हैं, सभी पार्टी के लीडर्स ने भ्रष्टाचार किया हुआ है, सारी पार्टियां अपने लीडर्स को प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहती हैं। तो ये धीरे धीरे क्लियर होता गया कि जब तक इस देश की राजनीति को साफ़ नहीं किया जाएगा, जब तक इस देश की पॉलिटिक्स को साफ़ नहीं किया जाएगा, तब तक कोई सुधार नहीं हो सकता। इसलिए हम लोगों को ये आम आदमी पार्टी बनानी पड़ी, इसलिए हम लोगों को पॉलिटिक्स में आना पड़ा। हम लोग कोई नेता नहीं हैं, हमें पॉलिटिक्स करनी नहीं आती है, हम लोग तो आम आदमी थे। लेकिन जब कोई चारा नहीं बचा, तब हम लोगों को पॉलिटिक्स में आना पड़ा। और ये बार बार चुनौती देते थे। दिग्विजय सिंह खड़े होकर चुनौती देते थे, सारी पार्टियां खड़ी होकर चुनौती देती थी कि अगर जन लोकपाल बिल चाहिए तो चुनाव लड़के दिखाओ, जन लोकपाल बिल चाहिए तो खुद संसद में आ जाओ, खुद पास कर लो चुनाव। लेकिन हम बार बार कहते थे कि हमें चुनाव नहीं लड़ना, हमें चुनाव नहीं लड़ना, हमने आपको चुन के भेजा है, आप पास कीजिए लॉ। लेकिन ये लोग नहीं माने। अब हमने इनकी चुनौती स्वीकार की है, हम लोग पॉलिटिक्स में आए हैं, हम चुनाव लड़के भी दिखाएंगे और ईमानदारी से इनको चुनाव जीत के भी दिखाएंगे। कई लोग हमसे ये प्रश्न पूछते हैं कि ठीक है आप जन लोकपाल बिल लेके आएंगे, लेकिन इसके आगे आप क्या करेंगे, आम आदमी पार्टी क्या करेगी, आपका क्या विजन है। बहुत सारी चीज़ें करने की ज़रूरत है देश में, लेकिन जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट स्टेप हम लोग लेना चाहते हैं वो है कंप्लीट पॉलिटिकल डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन। आज सारी की सारी पावर कुछ पॉलिटिशियंस और कुछ ब्यूरोक्रेट्स के हाथ में केंद्रित है। एक आम आदमी 5 साल में एक बार वोट तो डालता है, लेकिन अगले 5 साल तक उन्हीं लोगों के सामने गिड़गिड़ाता रहता है जिसको उसने वोट डाल के चुना था। उसके अगले 5 साल कुछ भी नहीं चलती है। उसका केवल एक ही रोल रह जाता है हमारे जनतंत्र के सामने कि हाथ जोड़ के अपने एमएलए और एमपी और मंत्रियों और चीफ मिनिस्टर और प्रधानमंत्री के सामने गिड़गिड़ाता रहे, चिट्ठियां लिखता रहे, और वो उसकी एक नहीं सुनते हैं। इसे बदलना पड़ेगा। इसे हम जनतंत्र नहीं मानते। इलेक्शंस इज नॉट डेमोक्रेसी, इलेक्शंस इज एनीथिंग बट डेमोक्रेसी। वी वांट दैट द पीपल शुड हैव डायरेक्ट पार्टिसिपेशन बिटवीन 2 इलेक्शंस। ये कैसे होगा? क्या 120 करोड़ लोग मिलकर देश चला सकते हैं? बिल्कुल चला सकते हैं। इसके बहुत सारे मॉडल्स हैं। मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ। अभी हमारे पार्टी में एक इंडिपेंडेंट एमएलए हैं, एक इंडिपेंडेंट काउंसलर हैं दिल्ली में, बिन्नी करके। उन्होंने ज्वाइन किया 3 महीने पहले। बहुत ईमानदार आदमी हैं, इंडिपेंडेंट जीते थे, अब उन्होंने 3 महीने पहले हमारी पार्टी ज्वाइन की है। उन्होंने एक्सपेरिमेंट शुरू किया। वो एक म्यूनिसिपल वार्ड के काउंसलर हैं। उन्होंने अपने सारे म्यूनिसिपल वार्ड में देयर आर अबाउट 10 to 12,000 फैमिलीज़, सब फैमिलीज़ को एक दिन नोटिस भेजा 2 महीने पहले, और सबको कहा कि मैंने ये डिसाइड किया है कि मैं जो भी काम करूँगा अपनी जनता से पूछ के करूँगा। तो मैं इस संडे को, आने वाले संडे को सुबह 11 बजे इस जगह मीटिंग रख रहा हूँ, आप लोग आइए और मुझे बताइए कि मैं क्या काम करूँ, आपकी कैसे सेवा करूँ। तो उसके कहने पे, उसके नोटिस पे 400-500 लोग इकट्ठे हो गए। उस मीटिंग के शुरू में, मैंने भी मीटिंग अटेंड की थी, उस मीटिंग के शुरू में उसने अनाउंस किया कि मेरे पास अभी कल म्यूनिसिपल काउंसिल से चिट्ठी आई है और मेरे पास इस साल के लिए काउंसलर डेवलपमेंट फंड का 50 लाख रुपया आया है। आप लोग मुझे बताइए कि मैं इस पैसे को कैसे यूज़ करूं। आपको सरप्राइज नहीं लगता? आज तक कभी आपके काउंसलर ने आपसे पूछा कि मेरे पास इतना पैसा पड़ा है, आप मुझे बताइए कि मैं पैसा कैसे इस्तेमाल करूं? कभी नहीं पूछा। हम अपने एमएलए या काउंसलर से काम कराने जाते हैं, वो तो हमेशा यही कहता है पैसा खत्म हो गया, अगली साल आना, अगली साल जब पैसा आएगा तब मैं काम करूंगा। आज तक हमारे काउंसलर ने हिसाब ही नहीं दिया। आज तक हमारे एमएलए ने, एमपी ने कभी हिसाब ही नहीं दिया अपने फंड का। ये आदमी पहली बार ये कह रहा है कि आप मेरे को बताइए कि मेरे पास 50 लाख रुपया है, मैं इसको कैसे इस्तेमाल करूं। ठीक है, जनता वहाँ पे सबने अपने अपने प्रोजेक्ट्स बताने चालू किया। जब मीटिंग शुरू हुई तो हमें ये लगा कि 50 लाख तो बहुत कम पड़ जाएंगे, जनता की तो बहुत बड़ी बड़ी डिमांड्स होगी। सारे लोगों की सारी डिमांड्स मिला के, किसी ने कहा कि हमारी वो स्ट्रीट लाइट ख़राब हो गई, वो ठीक करा दीजिए। किसी ने कहा कि हमारे सड़क पे गड्ढा है, वो ठीक करा दीजिए। लोगों की बहुत छोटी छोटी डिमांड्स हैं। सारी डिमांड्स पूरी 5.25 लाख रुपए में सारी सब लोगों की डिमांड्स पूरी हो गई। ऑन द स्पॉट प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन हो गए, ऑन द स्पॉट सब लोगों की डिमांड पूरी कर दी गई 5.25 लाख रुपए में। 45 लाख रुपए बच गए, बहुत बड़ी बात है। उसके बाद उसने कहा कि पिछले 3 महीने में हमारे एरिया में 6 गलियां बनी हैं कंक्रीट की। आप ये बताइए कि ये गलियां ठीक बनी है कि नहीं बनी, मैं इनकी पेमेंट कराऊं या ना कराऊं। कभी आज तक आपके काउंसलर ने पूछा कि ये गली ठीक बनी है कि नहीं बनी? सारी गलियां बन जाती है, उसमें जम के भ्रष्टाचार होता है, हम शिकायत करते रहते हैं, चिट्ठियां लिखते रहते हैं, विजिलेंस को देते हैं, सीबीआई को देते हैं, कोई एक्शन नहीं होता। यहाँ पे एक काउंसलर है जो जनता से पूछ रहा है कि आप बताइए ये सड़क की पेमेंट करूं या ना करूं। तो ऑन द स्पॉट जनता ने कहा ये 5 गलियां तो ठीक हैं, 1 गली गड़बड़ है, इसकी पेमेंट रोक दी जाए। उसने तुरंत ऑर्डर दिए कि पेमेंट रोक दी जाए। वहीं पे उसी मीटिंग में उस एरिया के सारे ऑफिसर्स भी मौजूद थे, सारे इंजीनियर्स भी मौजूद थे। वहीं मिनट्स बने कि उसकी पेमेंट रोक दी जाए। एक जॉइंट कमेटी बनाई गई। उस जॉइंट कमेटी में वहाँ उस सड़क पे रहने वाले रेजिडेंट्स थे 3 और असिस्टेंट इंजीनियर था। उन्होंने उसके बाद जाके उसका इंस्पेक्शन किया। इंस्पेक्शन में पाया कि वो सीमेंट कंक्रीट की 4 इंच की बननी चाहिए थी और वो 2 इंच की बनी थी। ठेकेदार को बुलाया गया, ठेकेदार ने ऑन द स्पॉट अपना जुर्म कबूल किया, असिस्टेंट इंजीनियर ने जुर्म कबूल किया। और अगले महीने जो वहाँ की वार्ड सभा हुई, उस वार्ड सभा में ये डिसाइड हुआ, ठेकेदार ने अपनी गलती मानी और उसने कहा कि मुझे मौका दीजिए, मैं ये पूरी सड़क दोबारा बना देता हूँ, और उसने पूरी सड़क दोबारा बना दी। इसको डेमोक्रेसी कहते हैं, इसको स्वराज कहते हैं। ये हमारी पार्टी का विजन है कि हम अंदर सत्ता भोगने के लिए नहीं जा रहे, हम सत्ता जनता के हाथ में देने के लिए जा रहे हैं। अब आप ये सोचिए, मान लीजिए आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार बनती है, हम अब ये कानून ही बना दें, मान लो एक कानून बना दिया जाए, उस कानून में लिखा जाए कि किसी भी हर एरिया में वहाँ के वार्ड सभा कह लीजिए या मोहल्ला सभा कह लीजिए, वहाँ के लोगों की हर फर्स्ट संडे को 11 बजे फलानी जगह मीटिंग होगी। मान लीजिए कानून में लिख देता है कि हर एरिया में हर महीने मीटिंग होगी, और लोग डिसाइड करेंगे कि वहाँ पे सरकारी पैसे से कौन कौन से प्रोजेक्ट्स किए जाएं। ये लोगों की वोटिंग से डिसाइड होगा। वहाँ पे लोग डिसाइड करेंगे कि जो काम हुआ वो ठेकेदार की पेमेंट की जाए कि नहीं की जाए। आपको क्या लगता है, इससे फ़ायदा होगा कि नहीं होगा? बिल्कुल होगा। उसी तरह से मान लीजिए हम उसमें लिखते हैं कि अगर कोई स्वीपर ठीक से सफाई नहीं करेगा तो मोहल्ला सभा को पावर होगी कि वो स्वीपर को समन कर सके। अगर वो स्वीपर नहीं मानता है तो उसकी तनख्वाह रोक सके। मान लीजिए सरकारी स्कूल के अंदर कोई टीचर ठीक से नहीं पढ़ाता, मोहल्ला सभा के पास पावर होगी उस टीचर को समन करने की, उसकी तनख्वाह रोकने की। या अगर मान लीजिए आपके एरिया में सरकारी स्कूल है, उसमें टीचर्स की कमी है, मोहल्ला सभा को पावर होगी टीचर्स की अपॉइंटमेंट की। मोहल्ला सभा को पावर होगी वहाँ पे अपने एरिया में जो सरकारी अस्पताल है उसमें डॉक्टर्स की अपॉइंटमेंट की। मोहल्ला सभा को पावर होगी वहाँ पे अगर फ्री में मेडिसिन देनी है तो मेडिसिन को ऑर्डर करने की। अगर हम जनता को सीधे पावर दे दें, मोहल्ला सभा को पावर दे दें कि डिसीजंस मोहल्ला सभा लेगी और उसको इंप्लीमेंट लोकल ब्यूरोक्रेसी करेगी, और अगर लोकल ब्यूरोक्रेसी ठीक से इंप्लीमेंट नहीं करती है तो मोहल्ला सभा उन ऑफिसर्स को निकाल सकती है, उनकी तनख्वाह रोक सकती है, उनको पीनलाइज कर सकती है, या अच्छा काम करते हैं तो उनको रिवॉर्ड कर सकती है। मुझे तो लगता है कि चमत्कार हो जाएगा देश के अंदर। कम से कम अपने एरिया की समस्याओं के लिए तो हम मोहल्ला सभा को पावर दे सकते हैं। मेरा एरिया, मेरी कॉलोनी, मेरा गाँव, इसके बारे में जितने डिसीशंस हैं ये सारे डिसीजंस लेने का अधिकार मोहल्ला सभा को होना चाहिए। लेकिन मान लीजिए स्टेट हाईवे बनना है, मान लीजिए स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी बननी है, मान लीजिए कोई बड़ा कॉलेज बनना है, ये सारे डिसीजन स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को लेने पड़ेंगे। ट्रांसपोर्ट पॉलिसी ये स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को करने पड़ेंगे। सो उस एरिया की लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स, आम जनता 80 से 90% अपनी दिन ब दिन की प्रॉब्लम से दुखी है। बिजली, पानी, सड़क, गली, राशन, ये सारी पावर तो हम लोकल लोगों को दे ही सकते हैं, वो डिसीजन ले सकते हैं। इससे भ्रष्टाचार बहुत कम होगा और लोकल लोग डायरेक्टली उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करना पड़ेंगे, चाहे कर सकते हैं। दूसरी चीज़, हमें अपनी एजुकेशन और हेल्थ के ऊपर ध्यान देना पड़ेगा। अगर हमने अपने आज हमारे देश में इतने लोग अनपढ़ हैं, आज हमारे देश में इतने लोग अस्वस्थ हैं, लेकिन एजुकेशन इतनी महंगी हो गई कि गरीब आदमी पढ़ा नहीं पाता अपने बच्चों को। प्राइवेट स्कूल में भेजने की उसकी औकात नहीं है। प्राइवेट स्कूलों की फ़ीस इतनी ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है कि एक आम आदमी उन फीस को बर्दाश्त नहीं कर पाता। तो हम अपने सरकारी स्कूलों, दिल्ली के अंदर 1800 सरकारी स्कूल हैं प्राइमरी और 1200 सेकेंडरी स्कूल हैं। 3000 स्कूल हैं जिसके अंदर 15 लाख बच्चे पढ़ते हैं दिल्ली में। इन 15 लाख बच्चों की ज़िंदगी बिल्कुल बेकार है क्योंकि इनकी यहाँ पे सरकारी स्कूलों के अंदर बिल्कुल पढ़ाई नहीं है। हम इनकी स्कूलों की स्थिति क्यों नहीं सुधार सकते? इनके अंदर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्यों नहीं सुधार सकते? इनकी क्वालिटी क्यों नहीं सुधार सकते? हम ऐसा क्यों नहीं कर सकते कि सरकारी स्कूल की जो क्वालिटी है वो एक प्राइवेट स्कूल के बराबर होनी चाहिए या उससे भी ज़्यादा अच्छी होनी चाहिए। प्राइवेट स्कूल डीपीएस से भी अच्छी होनी चाहिए हमारे सरकारी स्कूल की पढ़ाई, चाहे जितना पैसा खर्च करना पड़े। अगर हमारी पॉलिटिकल विल है कि हम अपनी पूरी कौम तैयार करना चाहते हैं, हम अपने बच्चों को अच्छा बनाना चाहते हैं, चाहे गरीब हो चाहे अमीर हो, तो हम कर सकते हैं। तो हमारी सबसे पहली प्रायोरिटी आम आदमी पार्टी की होगी कि स्कूल और स्वास्थ्य, सरकारी अस्पतालों को भी इतना अच्छा बनाइए कि जितना प्राइवेट अस्पतालों में अच्छा इलाज होता है वैसे ही सरकारी अस्पतालों में अच्छा इलाज होगा। अगर हमने अच्छी शिक्षा दे दी अपने बच्चों को और अगर हमने अपने सारे लोगों का स्वास्थ्य अच्छा कर दिया तो एक पूरी कौम तैयार होगी। सरकार का काम केवल फ्लाईओवर बनाना ही नहीं है। 10 फ्लाईओवर कम बन जाएं उससे खास प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी, लेकिन अगर हमारी पूरी कौम तैयार हो गई तो बड़े होकर ये 2000 फ्लाईओवर भी बना लेगी, 10,000 फ्लाईओवर भी बना लेगी। तो हमारा मकसद है हमारी आम आदमी पार्टी का कि हम ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट करना चाहते हैं, हम जनता को तैयार करना चाहते हैं, पूरी कौम तैयार करना चाहते हैं। एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा उठ रहा है अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट का। हमारे युवा शिक्षा लेते हैं और उसके बाद उनको रोज़गार नहीं मिलता है। आज हमारी पूरी की पूरी शिक्षा प्रणाली ऐसी है कि वो उसके बाद नौकरी ढूंढते हैं। हम बेसिकली नौकरियां लेने के लिए अपने युवाओं को तैयार कर रहे हैं, जबकि भारत जो है वो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स का देश है। हमारे देश में हर आदमी एक एंटरप्रेन्योर है, एक रिक्शा वाला भी एंटरप्रेन्योर है, किसान भी एंटरप्रेन्योर है, हर छोटा आदमी बड़ा आदमी एंटरप्रेन्योर है। जितनी एंटरप्राइजिंग स्पिरिट हमारे देश के अंदर है कहीं दुनिया में आपको नहीं मिलेगी। हमें अपने युवाओं के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटीज़, अवसर क्रिएट करने पड़ेंगे कि वो अपने धंधे शुरू कर सकें। आज हमारे कॉलेजेस कोई बीकॉम की डिग्री देता है, कोई बीए की, कोई बीएससी की, कोई इवन इंजीनियर्स भी सारे बड़े होकर नौकरियां ढूंढते हैं। हम क्यों नहीं इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स शुरू कर सकते? फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स होते हैं। 3 साल के लिए बच्चा पढ़ने के बाद तुरंत वहाँ पे इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर में वहीं से छोटा सा लोन ले और वहीं पे अपना लेट देम थिंक अबाउट, लेट देम हैव वेरियस आइडियाज़। उनके आइडियाज़ तो होते हैं युवाओं के, लेकिन उनके पास माहौल नहीं होता, उनके पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ नहीं होती। कॉलेज में इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स हो, कॉलेज उनको वो दे और हम युवाओं को अच्छा चीप लोन प्रोवाइड करें जिससे वो अपना खुद का रोज़गार शुरू कर सकें। कई लोग हमारे ऊपर इल्ज़ाम लगा रहे हैं, लोग कहते हैं कि हम लेफ्टिस्ट हैं। पिछले साल तक जब अन्ना का आंदोलन चल रहा था, लोग कहते थे हम कैपिटलिस्ट हैं। हम ये कहना चाहते हैं कि हमें ना तो ये पता कि लेफ्टिज्म क्या होता है और ना हमें ये पता कि हम कैपिटलिज्म क्या होता है। वी आर नॉट वेडेड टू एनी आइडियोलॉजी। हम बेसिकली आम आदमी हैं, हमारी समस्याएं हैं और हम समाधान चाहते हैं अपनी समस्याओं का। अब अगर किसी समस्या का समाधान हमें लेफ्ट में मिलता है, वी विल वेरी हैप्पीली एक्सेप्ट इट, और अगर हमें किसी समस्या का समाधान कैपिटलिज्म में मिलता है, वी विल वेरी हैप्पीली एक्सेप्ट इट। हमें किसी आइडियोलॉजी से कोई मतलब नहीं है, हमें अपनी समस्याओं का समाधान चाहिए, चाहे वो लेफ्ट में मिले चाहे वो राइट में मिले। तो ये सारे लेबल्स जो हमारे ऊपर लगाए जाते हैं ये सब बेबुनियाद हैं, इनका कोई मतलब नहीं है। हम राजनीति में राजनीति करने नहीं आए हैं, राजनीति बदलने के लिए आए हैं और उसकी कुछ हद तक तो शुरुआत हुई है। हमने ये अनाउंस किया, आज हमारी संसद के अंदर 162 ऐसे लोग हैं, ऐसे सांसद हैं लोकसभा में जिनके ऊपर संगीन अपराध के केस चल रहे हैं। दे आर फेसिंग सीरियस क्रिमिनल चार्जेस। अगर ऐसे लोग, उनके ऊपर रेप के चार्जेस, उनके ऊपर मर्डर के चार्जेस, उनके ऊपर किडनैपिंग के चार्जेस, उनके ऊपर एक्सटॉर्शन के चार्जेस हैं, ऐसे लोग अगर संसद में बैठेंगे तो क्या आपको लगता है कि हमारे देश में कभी भी क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम इंप्रूव कर सकता है? क्या आपको लगता है कि हमारे देश में कभी भी औरतें सेफ हो सकती हैं अगर रेपिस्ट्स जाके संसद के अंदर बैठेंगे? क्या आपको लगता है कि मर्डर के खिलाफ कभी भी स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन हो सकता है? बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता। इसीलिए आम आदमी पार्टी ने पहली बार डिसाइड किया है कि हम किसी भी ऐसे आदमी को टिकट नहीं देंगे जिसके ऊपर क्रिमिनल चार्जेस हों। चार्जेस तो छोड़िए, फॉर्मल चार्जेस तो छोड़िए, अगर उसकी एरिया में इमेज भी खराब है तब भी हम उसको टिकट नहीं देंगे। हमने एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग प्रोसीजर, सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर अपने कैंडिडेट्स का डिसाइड किया है कि हम जनता से कैंडिडेट्स के लिए एप्लीकेशन मांग रहे हैं। जितनी भी एप्लीकेशन आती है, फिर एक कैंडिडेट स्क्रीनिंग कमेटी है जो शॉर्टलिस्ट बनाती है 5 लोगों की, उसको हम वेबसाइट पे डालते हैं और जनता से पूछते हैं कि इन 5 लोगों के खिलाफ आपके पास कोई सबूत है? हो सकता है हमसे रह गया हो, हम अपनी भी स्क्रीनिंग, हम अपनी भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन करा रहे हैं उनकी, लेकिन अगर जनता के पास है तो आप हमें बताइए। हम एक भी आदमी को, ऐसे आदमी को टिकट नहीं देंगे जिसके खिलाफ कोई भी सबूत होगा। दूसरी चीज़, आज हम देखते हैं पार्टियों में एक ही परिवार से सबको टिकट मिल रहा है, बहू को भी मिल रहा है, मुलायम सिंह भी को भी टिकट मिलता है, अखिलेश यादव को भी टिकट मिलता है, डिम्पल यादव को भी टिकट मिलता है, सोनिया गांधी को भी टिकट मिलता है, राहुल गांधी को भी टिकट मिलता है, शीला दीक्षित को भी टिकट मिलता है और संदीप दीक्षित को भी टिकट मिलता है। एक ही परिवार से सबको। हमने अपने संविधान में डाल दिया, अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में पार्टी के, कि एक परिवार से 2 लोगों को टिकट नहीं मिलेगा। ये वंशवाद हमें ख़त्म करना पड़ेगा। एक जो बहुत, जब चुनाव होते हैं तो लोगों को, कैंडिडेट्स को टिकट खरीदनी पड़ती है। 2 करोड़ वो पार्टी फंड में जमा कराता है तब उसको टिकट मिलती है, चाहे कोई भी पार्टी हो, और 3-4 करोड़ रुपए वो चुनाव में खर्च करता है। तो एक आदमी जो 6 करोड़ रुपए खर्च करके आएगा तो वो 20 करोड़ तो कमाएगा अगले 5 साल में। हमारी पार्टी ने तय किया है कि किसी भी कैंडिडेट को एक भी पैसा खर्च करने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी और कंप्लीट फाइनेंशियल ट्रांसपेरेंसी होगी। एक एक पैसे का हिसाब हम लोग अपनी वेबसाइट पे डालते हैं। जितने डोनर्स हैं, हमें कोई 1 रुपया भी देता है तो उसको भी हम वेबसाइट के ऊपर डालते हैं। आप हमारी वेबसाइट पे जाके देख लीजिए, एक एक पैसे का आपको वहाँ पे हिसाब मिलेगा। पिछले 5 सालों में बताते हैं कांग्रेस को 2000 करोड़ से ज़्यादा का चंदा मिला है, लेकिन वो अपने लिस्ट ऑफ डोनर्स नहीं बता रहे। बीजेपी को 800 करोड़ रुपए से ज़्यादा का चंदा मिला है, वो भी अपने लिस्ट ऑफ डोनर्स नहीं बता रही। और ये शक किया जा रहा है कि जो कोल कंपनीज़ हैं, जिनको कोल माइंस मिले हैं, कोल स्कैम हुआ है, उन कोल कंपनीज़ ने बीजेपी और कांग्रेस दोनों को चंदा दिया है। अगर वो अपने लिस्ट ऑफ डोनर्स बताएंगे तो पता चल जाएगा कि दोनों पार्टियों को किस किस ने चंदा दिया है। यहाँ से करप्शन शुरू होता है, हम इसको यहीं पे ख़त्म करना चाहते हैं। तो साथियों, हो सकता है हमारे में 100 कमियाँ होंगी, हो सकता है हम लोग कई गलतियाँ कर रहे होंगे, लेकिन एक चीज़ बिल्कुल साफ़ है, हमारी नीयत साफ़ है। और बीजेपी, कांग्रेस, दूसरी पार्टियों की नीयत ख़राब है। वो देश को लूट रहे हैं, हम देश को बचाना चाहते हैं। मैं आप सब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि आपको हमारे अंदर बहुत सारी कमियाँ नज़र आएंगी, पर ये सर्कल है, आप सर्कल के बाहर मत बैठिए। कम इनसाइड, जॉइन अस, क्रिटिसाइज अस। आप हमारी गलतियाँ बताइए, मैं आपको वादा करता हूँ कि हमारे में जो भी गलतियाँ हम उसको ठीक करेंगे। लेकिन बाहर रह के अगर आप हमें क्रिटिसाइज़ करेंगे, अगर आप हमें गालियाँ देंगे, उससे ना आपका भला होने वाला, ना देश का भला होने वाला, ना हमारा भला होने वाला। सो प्लीज़ ज्वाइन इन। आप अंदर आइए, सर्कल के अंदर आइए। आज आपके पास और मेरे पास कोई चॉइस ही नहीं है। आम आदमी पार्टी इज़ द ओनली ऑल्टरनेटिव लेफ्ट। यही देश को एक नई दिशा दे सकती है, एक नई उम्मीद दे सकती है। हम सब लोगों को आज आम आदमी पार्टी में दिल्ली में 7,000 से ज़्यादा यंग लड़के लड़कियां काम कर रहे हैं। ये सारे कौन हैं? इनको अरविंद केजरीवाल से प्यार नहीं है, इनको आम आदमी पार्टी से भी प्यार नहीं है। ये लड़के लड़कियां अपने अपने काम धंधे छोड़ के बैठे हुए हैं। अपने कोई सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है, वो अपनी नौकरी छोड़ के बैठा हुआ है, कोई अपनी इंडस्ट्री बंद करके बैठा हुआ है। कई ऐसे हैं जो दिल्ली आए थे सिविल सर्विसेज के एग्ज़ाम देने, लेकिन अब वो नौकरी छोड़ के सिविल सर्विसेज के एग्ज़ाम पोस्टपोन कर दिए उन्होंने। ये सारे वो लोग हैं जिनको एक उम्मीद नज़र आ रही है कि ये आम आदमी पार्टी से अब देश बदलेगा। तो मुझे ये लगता है ये नवंबर के चुनाव और अगले 2014 के नवंबर के चुनाव स्पेशली दिल्ली के जो हैं, ये बहुत ही क्रिटिकल हैं। इट्स नाउ और नेवर। सो मैं आप सब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ कि आप लोग ज्वाइन कीजिए। आप जितने लोग आज यहाँ पे आए हैं, सब लोग बहुत सक्षम हैं, पढ़े लिखे हैं, पैसे वाले हैं। आप अपना टाइम भी दीजिए और हमें आपके पैसे की भी ज़रूरत है। चुनाव आयोग की लिमिट के हिसाब से एक कंस्टिट्यूंसी में 14 लाख रुपए खर्च किए जा सकते हैं। दिल्ली में 70 कंस्टिट्यूंसीज़ हैं, तो हमें करीब 10 करोड़ रुपए चाहिए। हम नहीं चाहते कि हमारे कैंडिडेट्स जो हैं वो गलत तरीके से पैसे खर्च करें। एक नंबर में हम चुनाव लड़ेंगे, क्लीन पैसे से चुनाव लड़ेंगे, ईमानदारी से पैसे चुनाव लड़ेंगे, सच्चाई से चुनाव लड़ेंगे और चुनाव जीत के दिखाएंगे। लेकिन हमें आपका पैसा और आपका समय दोनों चाहिए। अगर आप डोनेट करना चाहते हैं, आप हमारी वेबसाइट पे जाके इंटरनेट बैंकिंग भी है और पेमेंट गेटवे भी है, क्रेडिट कार्ड से भी आप डोनेट कर सकते हैं। बट प्लीज़ ज्वाइन इन। थैंक यू सो मच। जय हिंद।
Can I request Mr. Mayank Gandhi to come over and take few questions? I don't belong to any Aam Aadmi party. I don't belong to any political party. My struggle is against establishment. If Arvind Kejriwal turns violent, if Arvind Kejriwal also coming to power becomes like any other politicians, Indian affair is not going to spare them. So Arvind has told me that if audience asks any questions, the Executive National Committee member, Mr. Mayank Gandhi is here. You can ask him question. You must ask him question to get to know what the real pulse of the nation is. I will also ask question after you ask him. Can you have some question if you can ask? Yeah. Mike, can you give me mic, please?
My name is Dr. Disa. In the video, we saw that you have 7,000 supporters, and they are restricted to the north of India. How many candidates do you propose to put up in the next election, and what is your strategy?
The next elections that we are going to participate is the Delhi Vidhan Sabha elections, the Delhi Assembly elections. There are 70 candidates, 70 assembly seats, and we are going to participate in each of them. Already the selection process has begun. 11 candidates have been declared, and in the next month, I think all 70 of them will be declared. So the strategy, of course, is that we are going to use funds and donation, which is purely one number. Everything will be very transparent, clear, and we believe that there is an opportunity for clean politics and ethical politics. There is a window of opportunity, and we are trying to utilize that and go to the people and ask them that this is the chance. If it's like Arvind said, it's now or never.
Can you have the next person? Could you please give him the mic, please? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Turel. I'm a neurosurgeon in Mumbai Hospital. I think your crusade is absolutely laudable, no corruption. But when you say it's now or never, you should change the stand, because this is a process. India has been steeped in corruption for so many years, ever since independence. How do you think you can weed out in such a short period of time? You will need to be patient, you will need to be persistent, and you don't expect to win elections so soon. I mean, let us be pragmatic. Do you not believe that you will take time? We are with you, there's no doubt about it. But why do you say now or never? It should be now and again till you succeed.
Sure. No, I'm sure you want us to be a patient because you're a doctor. But no, doctor, let me be. See, this trend of vote buying has increased tremendously, and it's an increasing trend. Almost 70% of the or 60% of the votes are through vote buying. So this process is accelerating. It will have to be reversed. And I did not think that there was a chance. In 2010, and if you had told me, can this country change, I would have laughed at you. But with the movement, the Anna movement, and what has happened in the later on, I think something, if it is going to happen, is going to happen now. If we miss this opportunity, I doubt then the whole thing is going to petter. People will say, "Aise to Anna bhi aa gaye the, sab kuch ho gaya." The biggest movement in independent India has taken place. If after this, if it does not happen now, then I mean, I may be cynical, but I think it's never going to happen. So while it cannot be as if we are going to win and become the Prime Minister, but if something dramatic does not happen in this election, then my analysis, I could be completely wrong, and I wish I am, that if nothing happens in this election, then very little hopes of it happening, because this process of accelerating of the powers which are based out of money, muscles and divisive agenda is really increasing tremendously.
Okay, Mayank, let me ask you, let me be very direct and ask you certain questions. There are 3 questions which I want to ask. You have been involved with India Against Corruption movement. There are people like Santosh Hegde, there are people like Kiran Bedi, even Anna Hazare was also with you. Can you please give some light to the audience? Is India Against Corruption and Aam Aadmi Party are one, or Aam Aadmi Party has parted away with India Against Corruption? What is the nation wants to know what is exactly happening actually? Do you think Kiran Bedi is sidelined because he is not given